back on the Boulevard Sunday, April 21st. As always, here to prove to you there is no such thing as football season. We are presented by the Believe Network on this Sunday night. It was XFL versus USFL crossover weekend with all four games being cross-conference clashes. And what do you know? Both sides split the pair of games at 2-2 to make the running tally between the XFL and USFL deadlocked at 4-4. And I believe it's now halftime of this battle, considering there are 16 total crossover games. So it's been pretty evenly matched and hasn't been too much separation so far. We also had week 4. If you're with us on YouTube tonight, drop us a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. If you're with us on Twitter and X, drop a comment, give us a retweet, because we had a lot to get to as far as week 4. Zook, let's jump right in. Our first game in the Battle Dome. The return of Peasy, and the fans were fired up for it. And they start using him right away. He gets the start. Little spin move, showing the versatility early on. Here's McCarron going to hit him out of the backfield, in motion, into plus territory. Just chill in the first quarter. Peasy doing it already. Setting up Schmidt for a 54-yard field goal. Battlehawks open the scoring. They go up 3-0. Midway through the first now, seems like the Showboats love the first quarter. Cookus to Papali. They have 5 touchdowns at this point on the year. 4 of them in the first quarter. Showboats take the early lead 6-3. Darius Shepard has been a nightmare for kick coverage teams. Did it in the XFL last year. Doing it again in the UFL. Shepard down the far sideline, inside the 25. AJ has got to love that. And now he can take a breather because Peasy can come in and play the slot for him, although Shepard did get it back in pretty quick. Here's McCarron. Jacob Sailors once again continuing the momentum, stretching to the pylon. Touchdown Sailors after he did it last week. 15 in blue back again to put the Battlehawks up 9-6. And it was Lavert Hill picking off Cookus, dodging Memphis offensive lineman, trying to make a run back out of this. At one point I thought he was going to go, but Dawood Davis brings him down by the ankle. St. Louis defense shining yet again. They set up Wayne Gallman, who was inactive last week. That carousel of Battlehawks running backs, they made all 3 of them active this week. St. Louis goes up 15-6, and AJ just a laser on this throw. 2-point conversion to Marcel Aitman. Battlehawks up 11. That was the highest scoring first quarter in UFL history. Darius Victor took him a while to get going, but we know thick thighs save lives for Victor. He's going to punch it in here from a couple of yards out. That had to feel good for Victor, who just hadn't been able to get going all season. But those 2 runs show that he might be a force to be reckoned with down the stretch. Memphis gets the 2-point conversion from Cookus to Surratt. All of a sudden, it's a 3-point game. If you're watching this, you're thinking St. Louis should be up by 20. Nope. Field goal game for John DeFilippo Showboats. But it was St. Louis on 3rd downs that the Memphis pass defense couldn't stop. This one going to Marcel Aitman in single coverage. Moving the chains. 3 minutes to go till half. 2nd and 15. McCarron throws a pick. Quentin Meeks. 35, 30, 25. Inside the 15, Quentin Meeks makes a big play. On the replay here, they show McCarron might have had Butler across the middle, but forces it to Aitman. And a nice little route jump there by Meeks. That put Memphis in business. Cookus to Davis. First down? Not quite. They rule him short. So a big decision for John DeFilippo. He decides, let's kick the field goal and tie it. Too much time, though, for McCarron. They sneak a field goal right before half, and here's Cookus. I mean, just yet again getting punished. No help from the offensive line. He goes down, comes out of the game, squeezing that hand. Memphis 0-4 on 3rd downs to that point. St. Louis was exact opposite. Look at this 3rd and 9 conversion to Hakeem Butler. It was Butler, Aitman, Shepard, Peasy, and Sutherland. Touchdown, Battlehawks, 26-17 in the 4th. This is where things started to get a little out of hand as far as St. Louis dominating. On the ground, Sailors. I mean, that offensive line paved the way for that running game. 6.3 yards a pop and 45 dropbacks from AJ, 0 sacks. St. Louis offensive line was on point on Saturday afternoon. And folks, I don't even got to script this one. Look at McCarron. Just chill. And he was on the sideline. Peasy with his first UFL touchdown. He was partying with the shades on. St. Louis 32-17 win. They cover the overhits in this one. For Memphis, Case Cookus leaves the game in the third quarter yet again with an injury. And the Showboats, just 127 yards of total offense. That was the lowest of all 12 games or 16 games that we've had so far this season. For St. Louis, like we mentioned, 6.3 yards a carry, no sacks. AJ throws it 45 times, 3 touchdowns and a pick. Jahcour Pearson, 1 start, already climbing up the reception leader mark in the UFL. And St. Louis will go to DC next week. Memphis gonna host Michigan. Battlehawks 32, Showboats 17. On to Saturday night primetime in Birmingham, DC Defenders and the Stallions. Matt Corral getting the start over Adrian Martinez on the first drive. Going to flip it out to CJ Marable to move the sticks. 3rd and goal. Stallions trying to punch it in. Jordan Thomas and Corral collide. DJ Swearinger, right place, right time. 2 spoons, scoops that up. DC in business. 6.5 to go. First quarter. Zaquandre Wright, just recently added as a new tailback on this roster, going against his old squad. 3rd and 1. Vincent Smith, former New York Jet, another new face, coming back, was originally cut by DC, now back on the squad, making his presence felt. 3rd and goal, where they were 6 of 7 on red zone attempts in their last 7 tries. Make it 7 of 8. Chris Rowland, friend of the program. You come on the Boulevard, you get 6. Rowland, making it 6-0 early for DC. They capitalize on that takeaway with a 9-play drive. Here's Corral, right back at it. Jay Sternberger inside the DC red zone. That was a huge 3rd and 12 conversion. They're knocking on the door. T formation. Yet again. Fumble, and wait, he wasn't down. Conley across midfield. Are we going to see it? A 98-yard fumble return for a touchdown. Not quite. We're going to take a second look at it, says Blandino. Dean crushes my dreams here. I mean, by a fingertip. Conley gets touched. So DC can't capitalize on that turnover. They give it back to Corral. Huge sack here from Trent Harris, Davin Bellamy, and Derek Roberson, all combining on that. And it was Kelvin Harmon doing it on offense and special teams. Rangy blocks the punt with that long wingspan. Look at this. Just a work of art. DC up 6-0. Everything going their way in the first quarter. Birmingham sloppy, turning it over, making special teams mistakes. And Zaquandre White, Big Z, rumbling inside the 10-yard line. Had to be fired up to go against his old squad. DC sets up on a 3rd and 15. Tamu facing the rush. Rolls right. Looks for the sticks. Gets a couple blocks. He's 1 yard short. So DC is going to set up for a 4th and 1 here. We're going to go for it. White up the middle. Taken down by that formidable Stallions front. Huge play there for Birmingham. 3rd and 7 now for Corral. Nydair Rouse misses a tackle. And you got to bring Amari Rogers down on first contact, because if not, he's off to the races. Rogers, the speedster. Birmingham does it again, scoring right before the half. They tie it up 6-6. No 2-point conversion for either team on their score. And then we had lightning, rain. That lasted about an hour and a half. Minute 56 left in the half. Here's where they resume. And this is where it all went downhill for the DC Defenders. It's the kind of play you win it or lose it on, and I have to give credit to Paxton Brooks for falling on that and taking a safety instead of giving up a touchdown had he bobbled that, but it's not a good snap from Trey Barry in the pouring rain. 8-6 Birmingham. So we were going to play out the second quarter, and then DC was going to re-kick off to Birmingham, who deferred in the beginning of the game. And they get a 5-point swing here to go up 11-6 with an Ahmed field goal. He just joined the squad, replacing Chris Blewett. And Corral knew it there. That was a huge 5 points to get back. DC's D-line continue to step up. Trent Harris here, I mean, just a huge play. If they were able to jump on that one, would have been even bigger. Anthony Hines in on that effort as well. They do get into field goal range, make it 14-6 Birmingham. So a minute to go, third now. Tamu, across the middle. Harmon breaks a tackle from Mark Gilbert. Touchdown. A block punt, a touchdown, and several huge third down conversions, which you'll see coming up from the former NC State product and Washington Commander Kelvin Harmon. Makes it 14-12. Big two-point conversion here, trying to tie it up. Good coverage. Can't get it to Ty Scott. Birmingham keeps a 2-point lead. Jordan with the ball back now. Next series, 3rd and 12. Kelvin Harmon gets to the sticks. Beautiful catching coverage. DC settles for the field goal on a 4th and 4 from the goal line, but they do go up a point. Corral, this was his play of the game in my opinion. Breaks an Anthony Hines tackle, breaks another one there, gets out of bounds on a 2nd and 18 with 6 minutes to go. That shows you that Corral is just as athletic as Adrian Martinez, and here he does it with the arm. Just a dime to Jay Sternberger. Birmingham started to turn things on in the 4th quarter. DC defense held strong in the red zone. Birmingham takes the lead with 3, but they don't get 6, which gave DC another chance. Back and forth we go. Chris Rowland, can he be the hero? He did it last week against Arlington, taking a kick deep into Renegade territory. He does the same here, taking it into Stallions territory. 3:17 to go in the 4th. DC trailing by 2. You'd like to see a touchdown. A field goal would give you the lead. Tamu, Kelvin Harmon in double coverage. Gets him to the 30-yard line. Stallions fans that were left in the stadium starting to get nervous. Huge play by JoJo Tillery to knock Tamu down short of the sticks. Decision time for Reggie Barlow. He's going to take the 39-yarder from Matt McCrane and take the lead instead of going for the 4th and 1. That gave Corral the ball back. Under a minute to go. Deion Kane to midfield. 41 seconds to go. Corral trying to win the battle of Ole Miss quarterbacks. Finds Amari Rogers on the far sideline. 35 seconds to go. Birmingham in business. 14, 13. One shot to the end zone. Kevin Austin. Gary Conley breaks it up. But didn't matter because a 46-yard field goal from a man who went 4 for 4 in Ramiz Ahmed breaks the hearts of the DC defenders. The Stallions survive. Matt Corral plays the whole game. You see some love there with him and Jordan Tamu. Corral used to back up Tamu at Ole Miss. That was his mentor during his freshman year, and he gets the better of Jordan and the defenders. What a breakout game for Corral. 19 of 29, 240 yards and a touchdown. His newly signed kicker helps him out, going 4 for 4 with a long of 46, which was the game winner. If you can hold the Stallions to 0-4 in red zone touchdown chances and still lose, I don't know who's going to beat this team. They got their 20 points on a touchdown, 4 field goals, and a safety. Defenders gave up no sacks, still lose this one. Stallions 20, defenders 18. Going on at the same time with absolutely no chance of a rain delay in the Alamo Dome was Quentin Dormady's Brahmas against E.J. Perry's Panthers. And Dormady said he was going to let it fly. Earlier this week, he did just that on the first drive that Justin Smith gets behind the defense on a big 3rd and 9. They hand to John Lovett, the Penn State product, into the end zone for 6. Brahmas strike early. And on the 1-point play, it's Speedy Stevenson on the jet sweep to put San Antonio up 7-0 early. Perry working on his first drive. Gets sacked. That San Antonio defense coming up large. They had 6 sacks total on the night. That was the first one. Gave Dormady the ball back. Airing it out yet again. John Trey Kirkland. What a snag in midair. Put that one on the SportsCenter top 10. Bring your own juice. John Trey Kirkland lines up one-on-one against Bryce Tornadon. 50-50 ball, more like a 100-0 ball for Kirkland. That set up Ryan Big Toe Santoso for a 40-yard field goal. 10-0 Brahmas first quarter. Perry doing what he does best, moving the sticks with his legs. Gets that one on a big 3rd and 7. Trying to get some semblance of offense going for Michigan. 4th and 3, they fake a punt. Wes Hill's the up man. If a starting running back is the up man, you had to see that one coming. maybe a little bit of revenge for San Antonio pulling that fake field goal on DC in week 1. Here's E.J. Perry, yet again, no spy, all day to scramble, picks up a 2nd and 11 with his legs. 5 minutes to go in the half. Matt Colburn getting Michigan into the red zone. And a huge play from the San Antonio defense here. Perry drops back. Tim Ward levels him. Ball's out. Jordan Williams, fumble recovery. Really looked like Panthers had some offensive momentum going, and the Brahmas force a takeaway to shut down all of that momentum. Perry can't believe it. Tim Ward, huge hit. Doing it for that Wade Phillips defense just like he did last year. Dormady on 2nd and 10. Justin Smith, one of 2 San Antonio receivers to go over the century mark. Him and Kirkland were phenomenal on Saturday night. Quentin Dormady was throwing it deep. I mean, this one to Kai Nakua. Jontre Kirkland maybe thought he could win another jump ball. Kai Nakua is going to be an all UFL safety. Seems to come up big and get a pick every week. We should know this already from watching his brother Puka, that the genes are strong. I mean, this is just a great play as a safety coming over the top. And Dormady didn't care. He was going to stay aggressive. Here's a punt from Michigan. And watch this by Speedy Stevenson. Whoop! Unbelievable juke there from Stevenson getting into plus territory. He may be one of the most electric players in the UFL. Just a human joystick. Here's Dormady across the middle. Going to find Jontre Kirkland again. He actually wasn't throwing it to Cody Latimer all that much. Was finding the receivers instead. Here's Stevenson on the payoff. Makes it 16-0 right before the half. This one was getting out of hand for Michigan, but Perry wasn't giving up yet. Scrambles into Jake Bates' range, and Michigan for the 4th straight week playing indoors. You know what that meant. If I see Jake Bates miss outside, I'm going to have some serious questions. I don't think he's going to miss outside, but we have to see him kick outside. Here's Danny Etling in the game for an injured E.J. Perry now in the 4th quarter. We had no scoring in the 3rd. That's why we skipped the entire quarter. And look at this play from Jordan Mosley, one of the leading tackers on this defense, laying out Etling, knocking the ball out. And who's there to scoop it up? The captain, Jordan Williams, yet again. 3 minutes to go. Michigan, Etling, of course Marcus Sims. Because who wouldn't be behind the defense other than this guy? Scores every single week on the 2-pointer. They need it bad. Etling, under pressure, gets sacked. 10-point game. 3:19 to go. Michigan thinking, well, at least we got in the end zone. Now let's get to 4th and 12. Etling standing in the pocket strong. Sayosi Mariner. And 4th and 12 plays, Zook, 100% conversion rate on the year, only in the UFL. So under better, starting to sweat a little bit now. Here's Danny Etling. Right back to Mariner. 3rd and 3. 2:17 to go. San Antonio defense comes up huge with their 6th sack of the day to end this one. Jalen Dalton firing that Alamo Dome crowd up over Fiesta in San Antonio. One last heave for Etling. Loaf of bread into quadruple coverage. Picked off. Jordan Mosley, ball game. San Antonio bounces back from the loss to St. Louis in this very building last week. Quentin Dormady picks up right where Chase Garber's left off. And he gets the congratulations from A.J. Smith, gets to keep the game ball. What do you like, Wade, eggs or waffles? He said, well, waffle starts with W. I like a W. Brahmas win by 10. E.J. Perry, over 10 yards a carry yet again. But again, came out of the game with an injury. Marcus Sims scores again for Michigan, but it was really Quentin Dormady. 23 of 37, 269, a touchdown and a pick. Brahma's defense held the Panthers out of the end zone for 56 minutes. Brahmas had 2 receivers over 100 yards, like we mentioned. Justin Smith with his breakout game, 7 catches for 107. Panthers just 2 of 11 on 3rd down, and they gave up 6 sacks. It's Brahmas 19, Panthers 9. And our standalone Sunday contest, we called it the Lone Star Loser-Off. Somebody had to win this one. Luis Perez was trying to be that guy. First drive, hooks up with his favorite target, Sal Cannella, and you were thinking, here we go. There's that number 1 pass offense, but they have to punt. To Isaiah Henney, who had trouble against Memphis in this same situation, pops loose. Arlington going to get the ball inside the red zone already. Sometimes a punt can be offense, Zook. That's just what you need. Ball's loose. Sal Cannella forces that one after he had a drop across the middle that might have been a touchdown. And it's Jonathan Garibay, also a newly signed kicker, to put Arlington on the board 3-0. Here's the king of spring. Not looking so good there. Keandre Thomas, just a miscommunication from Perez and his receiver. And look at Thomas returning this one inside plus territory. As you can see, Perez maybe trying for the back shoulder, but Vaughns slipped and fell. 4th and 1, who do you feed? Mark Thompson. First game active, USFL Offensive Player of the Year. They said the offense runs through him. He was on a pitch count, so you didn't see him in for that play. Arlington defense forces a field goal. But how about Reed Sinnett airing it out here to Cyril Grayson Jr.? What a catch inside the 20. And Sinnett liked that so much, he's going to go right back to him, set them up inside the 10 now. 3 minutes to play in the second quarter. Emmanuel Butler opens up Houston's touchdown scoring with a nice catch there on the slant route. 9-3 game. 2-point conversion. Sinnett find the open man in the end zone to make this an 8-point game. So Arlington gonna have to play from behind. It was the opposite for them last week. They played with a lead against DC, so maybe this could benefit them. Well, the offensive line wasn't looking too good. Big sack there from Ethan Westbrooks. Get one back with Jalen Redmond. And I didn't like this sequence from Houston. They ran those 33 seconds off the clock entirely. They had 2 timeouts. C.J. Johnson said, we got Mark Thompson. We're going to take the ball at the start of the second half and go down and score. And he was right. Even though it was a questionable decision at half, Mark Thompson ends up scoring on the first drive of the third quarter for Houston. Back in the end zone where he belongs, 17-3 Roughnecks. Perez starting to feel the pressure a little bit. 5 minutes to go, third quarter, hooks up with Deontay Burnett, scoring against his old team in the Houston Roughnecks. Burnett had a big day, 4 catches, 53 yards, and a score. But Sinnett looked like the better quarterback out there. Here he does it with his legs on 3rd and 7. A nice play to get to the sticks there. 4.5 minutes to go. They were playing clock control. Only 1 timeout for Arlington. Here's Sinnett trying to get a 3rd and 2, but it's knocked loose. Ajane Harris against his old team with a big play there. So 1 more shot for Perez. They said he was going to call the 2-minute offense. Finds Deontay Burnett. Takes a big hit along the near sideline. Minute 22 to go. Perez. Deontay Burnett again. Hitting plus territory. 8-point game. Touchdown and a 2-pointer ties it. Perez, 35 seconds to go. Dancing around. Pocket collapsing. Finds a receiver for a first down. Now 17 seconds to go. Got to score soon. Tries to take off. But Chris Odom, former USFL Defensive Player of the Year, comes up big for a Houston D-line that were the stars of the show all day. And how about C.J. Johnson and the Houston Roughnecks? Take down Bob Stoops as a 3-point underdog. This was the shocker of the weekend for me. I know both teams are 0-3, but nobody expected Houston to come in and give those home fans a show like they did. Sinnett playing that game manager role very well. Mark Thompson, he was on a pitch count, but he capitalized on the snaps he got. They're 1-0 with Thompson active, and they held the #1 pass offense in the UFL to just 153 yards. Renegades terrible on the ground, just 40 yards. Again, back down to 2.2 yards a carry. And an offense that was hitting on over half of their third downs, just 2 of 10. It's Roughnecks 17, Renegades 9. So, like we said, the USFL and XFL split a pair of games. I was at one of those on the Battle of the Brands Tour, a soggy night at Protective Stadium, which wasn't very protective at all from the rain and lightning. We waited it out, and we ended up seeing a great finish for some, maybe not for me, but check it out. I travel the country to witness football's newest rivalry, the XFL versus the USFL. In the XFL corner, the DC Defenders. In the USFL corner, the Birmingham Stallions. Welcome to the Battle of the Brands Tour. Get an outside look at Protective Stadium. Brand new, opened in 2021, home of the UAB Blazers of the American Conference. All right, we're gonna head inside, check out this brand new stadium. So view inside the press box here at Protective Stadium. All right, made it down to the field. A little over an hour till kick. Stallions keep this side open for home games. All right, we found Christian.
What's going on, man? You can find me on Twitter at @CPalantonio_.
My man.
Pro Football Newsroom, too.
Stallions are doing a throwback night. That old vintage USFL 80s logo. It's pretty sweet. All right, it's time for kickoff. Little lightning delay update here from Birmingham. All DC in the first quarter. They capitalize on a turnover and they go all the way down the field, 8 plays, 96 yards. Beautiful catch from Chris Rowland in the red zone on a package that was specifically designed to get him in the game. DC went up 6-0 early, and Matt Corral had his second fumble of the game. This time, Garyon Conley scooped it up, ran all the way back to the end zone. They take it back, they say, just DC ball. So a couple of turnovers by Corral early on, but Skip Holtz seems confident to stick with him. Right before we hit the lightning delay, Amari Rogers hit a huge touchdown on a missed tackle across the middle for 50 yards. So as it stands right now, 6-6. DC's defense and special teams stepping up as well with a blocked punt. Birmingham looks just about as sloppy as they have all season, but did find their offensive rhythm right before we hit the delay. Let's play football. All right, second half update here. DC trailing by 2. Minute 8 to play. It's been a back and forth game since we restarted off that lightning delay. DC had a big touchdown catch from Kelvin Harmon. Defense coming up big here. Birmingham retook the lead with a field goal, but now DC has it right in the red zone here. It's going to be another crazy finish in the UFL.
Let's play ball.
DC with a field goal to go up 18-17. Birmingham had too much time. They go down the field. They had a 47-yard field goal. He nailed it.
I want to thank the fans that stayed because when we came out in the rain, our players were hooting and hollering. When we came out, they said, "Okay, it's clear, all clear. You can take the field." And we walked around the corner, and it was just sheets of rain coming down.
Well, that's a wrap from Birmingham. Stallions 20, Defenders 18. Another finish in the final seconds of the UFL season. DC kept this one close as we expected, and Jordan Tamu made a lot of plays. Just a good effort, especially in the first quarter from DC's defense. Ultimately, they leave Birmingham just a little too much time on the clock. A win for the USFL side tonight in the Battle of the Brands Tour. Back on the Boulevard Sunday, April 21st. As always, here to prove to you there is no such thing as football season. We are presented by the Believe Network tonight. That was our little tour recap from Birmingham. Of course, my heart was broken to see the ball go through the uprights there. I thought DC, as a 9-point underdog coming in, certainly had a chance there. Obviously, the safety and the field goal in the minute and 56 that got resumed after that lightning delay proved to be the game changer for the Defenders. And I'll tell you what, Zook, as we take a look at our best bet results here, I'll say this much. 9 was crazy. And we can agree that when you look at all the lines across the entire 4 weeks of UFL, that was a swing and a miss. I can't think of a line that was that. I mean, that was a good game. Like, either team could have won that game. And I'm not just coping. I cope a lot with DC. This should not have been a 9-point spread.
We'll get to that when we break this down. But
yeah. Well, DC +8. I even got it at 8. That cashes for me. If you had the money line, I'm sorry. I sprinkled it a little bit as well. Did not make that a best bet. But DC ends up covering the 8. And for the Stallions, we'll see you June 16th in St. Louis, who I also had -7. And they cover for me the Battlehawks. I mean, Sure, it was in question, Zook, for a little bit there in the middle 8 where it was like a 17-14 game, and I'm thinking, what's going on here? St. Louis is dominating, and Memphis is finding a way to stay in this. But what do you say, Zook? Second half, they disappear. Milk carton, they go missing. They do literally 5 touchdowns on the season, or maybe 6 now, and like 4 or 5 of those in the first quarter. So you can count on them to score in the first. Maybe you start taking Memphis first half to cover spreads.
If you're going to bet at all, yes, take them first half.
So I had that. We had a joint play where I got Arlington at 2.5. You got them a little later in the week at 3. And I know after Saturday, we're both sitting here thinking, well, let's talk about your first play because I want to get the good news first. Let's get the good news.
I cashed the under 41. What that end up? 26 or so?
Yeah, 28.
28. That's what it was. I got a little sweaty towards the end because I'm like, from the games, things get tight in the end, and you're never out of it. So it's like, they're going to start just flying it. And
right.
I thought it was good play from the start.
Yeah, that could have got interesting because at 28, if they get another score, and it's 19-9, probably going for 2, right? So then you're sweating overtime. I mean, it would have been a mess. You never know in those kind of situations.
Yeah, I'm sitting here on the couch calculating how I lose this because that's just how things have been going for me this year.
Tell our podcast listeners, just to make it official, what game that was.
Oh, Michigan, San Antonio, under 41, cash bag next to my name.
Right. So that's the good news. We came in 3-0 as a show to the standalone Sunday game. And if you rewind to Thursday, we both saw this coming. I don't know why we bet on this team. The Arlington Renegades are back for 2024, folks. This team never covers when I bet them. I am sorry to Zook that I dragged him down with me this week into this hellhole that is betting on Arlington.
I'm not letting you take the fall. I was a fool, too. I thought it was a guaranteed bet. Arlington has the best offense statistically. Even they're not winning games, but statistically, they got the best offense. And they just, I don't know, they just find a way to lose you money. So if you're looking at this graphic, if you learn anything from this show today, stay away from any Arlington game. Just stay away.
Spreads were a little off this week from odds makers. St. Louis, 7-point favorite, wins by 15, 8-point differential. DC, 9-point dog, loses by 2, touchdown differential. San Antonio, underdog, slim underdog, wins by 10. And then this game, Houston with catching 3, and they win by 6. So, and then the unders were 3-1. So odds makers were off this week. So they've been close, and we know, like, as the season goes on, odds makers will continue to get even closer as they get more data. But in your opinion, Zook, what happened with spreads and totals being way off from an odds maker's perspective this week?
I just think it's so unpredictable. Vegas is even having a problem with it.
Yeah.
So, like, if you look, we're still making a little bit of money on our bets here, but we're definitely not as successful as we were last year. I think there's just way too much. What's the word I'm looking for?
Variance.
Yeah, like you just never know. These teams are close, and it's going to be any given Saturday or Sunday.
Right.
You just never know when they're going to go off, and it's tough. It is tough.
We talked about strategies last year being once the tiers started to separate, you could fade the bad teams.
Right.
Normally. Now, are we starting to see that as we turn the page to week 5? St. Louis seems like a bit of a wagon, a team that it's pretty comfortable to cover in games where they're playing against the bottom 3 or 4, right? And another team that might be profitable now, San Antonio. Clearly, odds makers overreacted, making them a dog to Michigan. Is this a team now, after not covering against St. Louis, that's going to start to make some money? Is DC back to their ATS excellence that they were last year as far as covering games? Like St. Louis, DC, I think is going to tell a lot next week.
Yes.
I presume that's going to open at St. Louis -6.5. Even though it's at Audi Field, I think odds makers are overreacting, and we saw that with totals. Why were the totals in the mid-40s and even higher here this week?
Yeah, I think
We had a 28-point game. We had a 17-9 today, 26-point game. I mean, they were way off. So
I think DC opens out. I think they're getting 8.
if it closes at 8, I'll be happy. But I think we're going to open at 6. I think Birmingham, if you look at futures, is far and away considered to be the best team. But I think St. Louis is getting stronger, and I like to kind of find the teams before they get overinflated, right? And this was the week to be on St. Louis. It was not the week to be on Arlington. I'll say it again. I would have been 3 for 3. We would have been 5 for 5 as a show, right? Renegades, yet again. Overall records, I am 6-4-1. You are 3-3.
Before we get to DFS, I do want to tell you. I didn't want to tell you before the show, but I'm going to tell you now. So I was searching for sound effects for us going 5-0 on our best bets earlier.
That's grounds for termination.
Yeah. I feel bad.
So there are
But I
some
thought
things
the
better
only-
left unsaid.
The only way I was going to tell you was on air. So I figured this was a good moment.
I shouldn't have even watched the game. If you would have told me that before the game, I would have turned it off and said, okay, Houston won. Let's write it off.
My
Well,
bad.
you live and learn. I'll give you one. You get a mulligan.
And I know better.
No more of that.
I know better. And I still did it. I was like, yeah, we're going. I wanted like coins falling all over the screen or. Yeah, I screwed up. I'm sorry.
Instead,
about
we
that.
got Luis Perez falling all over the screen. That's about what we got. Hey, we're still profitable as a show
Sure.
right now. Total record, let's see me do the quick math. 9, 7, and 1.
Yeah, not too
So.
bad. I want to be in that 70% range.
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah.
You're up in it now. Okay.
No, I mean,
All right.
60 is always the bar. You want to be
Is
at.
it? That's a
Yeah.
high bar for me, buddy.
Well, I don't know. Last year was a
Yeah.
little more predictable, and I guess it was
Yeah.
easier to have a better record.
Right. So that's our best bet results and disclaimer. If you're going to bet the Arlington Renegades, don't. All right, DFS. Let's check out what TPG had going for us. The People's Gambler. I would like to share some of our success this week with him. However, we're gonna ball this one up. We're gonna throw it in the wastebasket. We're gonna move on to next week for TPG. This is hard. It's hard to pick sleepers, especially in that salary range. And Michigan's pass offense just wasn't generating those explosive plays. And when they were, the one that they had went to Marcus Sims again. Jontre Kirkland and Quentin Dormady look actually pretty good together. I know TPG's reasoning here was Latimer was going to get a lot of targets. Looking through the box score of this one, Cody Latimer, 7 targets versus Kirkland's 8, but Kirkland did more with them. So that's what it came down to. And we talked about Perez having a banged up knee. In TPG's defense, the show and the pick was made before maybe we knew about that as much. I don't know how much of a factor it caused. I think Houston's defense was just really good. But 3 strikes for him this week and an out. But hey, he's been doing all right with this. Go support him. This is bounce back week for TPG. All right, Zook, let's get into breaking down some of these games. We have Memphis and St. Louis to talk about first. Man, main takeaways from this one. Well, St. Louis, 9 of 15 on third down. They dominated time of possession. 38 minutes compared to Memphis's 21. Jacob Sailors, 103 yards rushing on 15 carries. A lot of those came on the one, I think, 63-yard run. But this offensive line did not look good in week 1. We reevaluate them in week 4. I'd be willing to say right now they are the best offensive line in the UFL. When you go for 6.3 yards a carry and AJ drops back 45 times against a really good defensive line that has sacked other quarterbacks, that has generated takeaways, and a lot of QBs fumbled. Martinez fumbled against the Showboats D-line. No sacks. Not a single sack. Also, this 4-receiver set, Shepard, Butler, Aitman, Peasy, and I'm afraid to say this, is unstoppable. I think if you're going to beat St. Louis this year, you're going to have to score 30 minimum. And that's right around what we said in the preseason, right? That you're going to have to score with them. And then week 1, I think everybody overreacted to a team that wasn't ready to play yet. Certainly the week 1 version of the Battlehawks is not the version we're getting going forward. In the poll coming up, we'll show you how we feel about Birmingham and St. Louis. I'll tell you right now, if the Stallions and the Battlehawks met on a neutral field tomorrow, I'm making it a pick 'em. I think it's that close now with what they've been able to do offensively. And we had questions, Zook, about their defense. What'd you think of the defensive effort from St. Louis in this one? Looked pretty solid to me.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to go for. It's real easy to sit here and talk about how great that offense is, right? They have so many weapons. But defensively, they look like they're like really becoming a group. And they're starting to really know what they're doing, and they're scary. They're fast too. Yeah. If you want me to bounce back to AJ, 35 completions, that's insane. I told you,
and only 222 yards too.
And it's no secret, this offense is only going to get better with Peasy. Yeah. He opens so much up, and they have so many weapons. Jake Sutherland, he's huge,
dependable in the red zone.
We're always talking about Butler, but I mean, look at Sutherland.
If you look at Sutherland routes run versus like touchdowns, it's unbelievable how efficient he is. Wayne Gallman back in the box score. We talked about not a lot of teams making 3 tailbacks active. Anthony Beck found a way to do it this week, and it works. He had Sailors, Durant, and Gallman out there. I don't think Durant ended up with a carry, which is interesting. But we know Wayne Gallman did end up scoring there, which was, good to see him get back in the end zone after being bottled up in week 1 in a really big spot on 4th and goal. St. Louis is humming on offense. Defensively, I want everybody to remember missing their nose tackle in Austin Faiolu, who's an All-XFL player from Seattle last year. Missing Pita Taumopenu, the All-XFL Defensive Player of the Year. Neither of those guys played. Still put up this kind of effort. The secondary is pretty good. Lavert Hill showed that he could be a top corner. I think he was also All-XFL last year. I'm not going to lie, I slept on this defense a little bit. They just went up against San Antonio and Memphis, who are one of the, I guess, really 2 of the more innovative offensive schemes that you can have as far as an air it out type of system where they're going to throw it a lot. And I thought they did a great job. 127 total yards they allow. Cookus, 8 of 12, 55 yards, touchdown and a pick. I mean, we said last week the USFL championship game will be Birmingham against Michigan. I'm willing to double down on that. Memphis. If your quarterback can't stay in the game for the 4th quarter because he's being punished and the offensive line can't keep him up, you can't have Troy Williams coming into games at the end every single time like this. And I understand John DeFilippo wants to keep Cookus healthy, and he was obviously busted up at the end of this game as well. But it's just a bad sign. I know Darius Victor did some good things on the ground. He had 5.3 yards a carry, but the offense is not good. 127 total yards was the lowest of the UFL season so far. And we already know the pass defense can't keep up with anybody. After seeing what I saw out of Houston today, good luck, Memphis, playing Houston again in that second game. I don't want to overreact, but if I had it set a live over-under on Memphis wins right now with them sitting at 1-3, I'm going 1.5. I'm going 1.5, and I don't know if they're going to get another win this season if they play like they played in this game. It was probably one of the worst performances we've seen in the second half yet again. So St. Louis covers for us, and this over hit 17 points in the first quarter for the Battlehawks. Got that one home. So that was St. Louis winning by 15. Any other takeaways that I missed on that one, Zook, that you had? Any thoughts on Peasy coming back, right?
Yeah, I love the guy. Love Peasy. I'm going to be rooting for him for sure. The only thing I really want to say is that I think you screwed up this graphic. You chose the word bury when you could have used sank.
Yeah, see, I used sank, I think, last week.
Oh, okay.
And I was like,
All right. Just a little.
I could have said bury the boats, too. But
There we go. Just a little constructive criticism,
Well, it's good to see Peasy back. Clearly the personality that is going to make UFL games feel more like XFL 2020, right? We had a lot of that on the sidelines in the 2020 version of the XFL. The flair, the interesting personalities, the interviews, like Peasy brings that kind of vibe back. And I want the networks to lean into that the way that ESPN did. I hope that Fox will get back to how they were in 2020 with the XFL. And I know Vince McMahon and Oliver Luck had a lot to do with that kind of style and leaving mics open and, maybe even having a couple cuss words here and there. But I'm telling you, Pearson's the guy that can get ratings and he can get fans in that St. Louis stadium. We got the flies back in Studio Z. Peasy was flying around, flies flying around. We power through. Really, I'm just stalling because I don't want to talk about this next game. So I don't know. Should I let you open up, Zook, and tell me why I was wrong? Why did DC not upset Birmingham?
All right. So here's my thought. I know I spent a lot of time last year talking about DC being the beneficiary of a lot of turnovers. And that's exactly what Birmingham did early. DC was capitalizing last year on those, and they couldn't do it. Birmingham's too strong of a team, and this is what I was saying early. Like, you're ending at -9, right? But the Stallions had every opportunity to just actually put DC away and make them their bitch really early. They didn't do so. They turned the ball over twice in the red zone. So
that seems to be the narrative, right? I've been hearing that a lot, that it shouldn't have been as close as it was. I strongly disagree, and not because I'm a DC fan. But you can't say that when there was a fumbled or a snap that went right back into the end zone. And then DC also had that fumble recovery called back by an inch that would have went for a touchdown. I think what I'm trying to say is the Stallions and defenders got just as many breaks.
Sure, but yeah, you could talk about that fingertip. But again, like, DC's not causing the turnovers. They're being given to them. They literally played hot potato with the football.
Skip Holtz said that. He said he blamed himself for the one in the press conference. He said that was something that I had in the game script that we ran in practice a lot, and I called it wrong. He actually took blame off Corral for the one. The other one, he had a different explanation for it, but he actually took blame off of Matt for both.
Right. And I just think in this game, Jordan just didn't have the amount of time.
He wasn't sacked to take.
I know, but he was still running around.
Yeah.
And he wasn't able to just take the game over like he did last week to win. And that's credit to the Stallions defense.
Yeah. Yeah, I think DC gave the Stallions all they had. We talked a lot about this getting to the very end, and the defenders had a shot to win it at the end, as I expected they would. The 4th and 1, Zook, let's talk about it. So you're down 3. Obviously, a field goal puts you in front by 1. Defense has been playing pretty good. D-line broke out a little bit. I think they had 4 sacks, which is, I think, more than they had combined all season. So you're relying on your D-line to get some pressure. It doesn't work that way. If you're Reggie Barlow, and keep it in mind, hindsight's 2020.
Sure.
You go for the 4th and 1.
I personally don't. I mean, points are a premium. We keep talking about it. Those kind of things are situational. At that point, you want to take the momentum back. And we've been talking about this for 4 straight weeks on decisions that have been made. And I'm not really questioning a lot of other coaches, but I'm questioning Reggie. There's been quite a few time management. Like, we're talking about all the same stuff every week. And I think you need to take the points in that situation. and let your offense feel good that you did something.
Yeah, I'm okay with that because they were farther out. I think they were on like the 22. It ended up being about a 39-yarder or something in that range for McCrane. And
Right.
when
You got to feel McCrane's going to make
Oh,
that.
yeah,
We're talking about him being one of the best kickers in the league. He's top 3 for
automatic,
sure.
yeah,
He's probably
no pun intended.
number 2 right behind
Yeah.
Bates. So
Yeah.
I like kicking in that situation.
Yeah, and when I'm thinking about that one, we also saw a highlight in that package where Jordan on 3rd and 15 ran for 14. They go 4th and 1, and they lose 3 yards on a counter play. So I'm sure Reggie was thinking, I can't have that happen again because then we lose. But my take on it, I'm good with the field goal on the 4th and 1 to go up 18-17. I actually would have went the 4th and 4 where they went up 15-14. The one before that ended up being on the 4-yard line. It was actually 4th and goal. I don't think they could have picked up a first down on the one. Pretty sure it was a 4th and goal there. That's the one I go for it because you've been so good in the red zone. I think they had hit on like 7 of their 8 last red zone tries. They have, like Fred Keiss has some of the best red zone play calling that I've seen in spring football where things tighten up and they just seem to get guys open. You saw it with Chris Rowland. Ran a beautiful route in the back of the end zone to start this up. I think you could have done something similar on 4th and goal instead of putting McCrane out to kick a 23-yarder. You score there, that potentially becomes a 5-point game or higher if you hit the PAT. I don't know, Zook. Birmingham scored 1 touchdown. Sure, it was in the rain.
Right.
You know, points were at a premium, like we said.
I question the last field goal because what do you have? You have 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 at that point. If you get a first down, you basically can run the entire clock out.
Yeah.
And give the Stallions no time, and you could still kick a field goal.
That's the one.
Is that what you were talking about?
Well, there was 2, right? There was the one. There was the first one and the second one. The first one put them up 15-14. That was a 4th and goal. Ended up a 23-yard field goal. That's the one I think they should have went for. You're talking about the one that put them up 18-17. That was a 4th and 1, but it was on the 23, the plus 23.
Right.
So a lot of people would rather go for it because it's a shorter distance. What goes through my mind is they got stuffed on one in the second quarter that maybe.
Oh, you think he made the decision because of what happened earlier?
It was like not even close. Like the line didn't get a push at all, and he was probably thinking, well, if we do this, it's going to be goal line package because I don't think you throw it. Maybe you do. It sucks on 4th and 1 because if you throw it, everyone's going to be pissed off.
I'm not crazy critical of that one that I'm talking about, just because you want to take the lead.
Right.
I'm just saying you do have the opportunity to put the game away at that point.
Both times they were down by 2 in those decisions, so certainly makes it a lot easier for Reggie Barlow to kick the field goals. We just continue to see in the UFL that it's just too much time. You have to almost play it like St. Louis did against Arlington week 2, where you have a 2-minute drive, you get all the way down to the goal line, you sit on it, take all the time off the clock. We're not even like St. Louis learned their lesson against Michigan. We're not even going to give these kickers 15 seconds. And Birmingham stayed aggressive. They took a shot to the end zone. I mean, they were trying to win that with a touchdown. They had one-on-one coverage. You know that they saw in film that Greg Williams is going to play man coverage and cover 0 regardless of what the game situation is. And they had a one-on-one, and Gary and Conley made a big play to break that one up, or else it would have been a game-winning touchdown. You have to give it, though, to a guy like Ramiz Ahmed. Comes in, scores 12 points for Birmingham, kicks the game-winning field goal. This is after Birmingham's kicker, Chris Blewett, was hurt, and Skip Holtz called him a rent-a-kicker, and then he said in the press conference, I finally learned his name. And I think a lot of Stallions fans learned his name. It'd be interesting to see now, because now he gets cut, right? Like, they're going to bring Blewett back. I don't know. I think he won. If I'm coaching that team, he won the job. Sorry, Chris Blewett, you got hurt at the wrong time.
That one's tough.
Life as a kicker sucks.
I always love coming off the couch, though.
Yeah.
And kicking 4 field goals. That's awesome.
Yeah, a couple of guys did it this week. We're seeing some kicker injuries, which I don't know what if we're having kickers and tackling drills, but between Destroying and Taylor Russolino and Chris Blewett, all these guys getting hurt and missing games. I hope that doesn't happen to Matt McCrane because he's been very solid. once again, UFL kickers were great. I know Schmidt from St. Louis missed one. J.J. Molson from Houston missed one today. That was like 55 out, but they rushed it at the end of the play clock, so I don't even blame him for that. But, yeah, final takeaway from this one. A lot of the things that we touched on Thursday came true. Jordan made a lot of plays to keep them in it, through the air and with his legs. The receivers continue to emerge. Last week it was Chris Rowland. Week 1 it was Ty Scott. This week it was Kelvin Harmon. Running game, still looks maybe a little bit better with Zaquandre White, who will probably start, I would think, going forward. He seemed like he had more burst than Cam Harris. Offensive line continues to get better. I know they had the tough one on 4th and 1 where they got stuffed, but no sacks. I mean, that's hard to do when Birmingham came in with 17 sacks on the season. They just had 8 and 7 the 2 weeks prior. So to hold them without a sack, especially in those conditions, is great. And the defense stepped up and played a much better game, only allowing Birmingham in the end zone once. Now, granted, there were 2 of those that it could have easily been 3 touchdowns, but people will say I'm crazy for this. I'm more confident in DC making the playoffs after watching them against Birmingham than I was before watching them. And that's because it was a 9-point spread. And they covered the spread, and they outlived expectations. And I feel better about this, knowing they took Stallions to the wire, and nobody has been able to do that since. So that's where I'm at with DC. As far as the Stallions, all credit goes to them. They just find different ways to win. Matt Corral is better than Adrian Martinez, and I'm not overreacting. You guys all overreacted in week 3. That was a bad Showboats defense. Good luck finding a quarterback who doesn't tear them up this season. I think Corral's the guy. I know Skip Holtz is probably going to want to bounce back and forth. But let's be honest, we all overreacted. Matt Corral's a 3rd-round NFL draft pick. Matt Corral did more in college than Martinez. Matt Corral was a guy that was projected as high as the 1st round when he came in with the Panthers. Yeah, some things didn't go his way. But all this talk about, Martinez is the better athlete. No, he's not. Did you see Matt Corral out there making plays on 2nd and 18? I mean, how many hits did he take, Zook, where it looked like he was out? The one he comes back in on, he ends up fumbling because he toughed it out so much and he was hurt. Matt Corral, 7 carries, 51 yards. That's not any worse than Adrian Martinez was and it was against a better defense. Also interesting, Skip Holtz says in the post game, in the presser, he also said this on the field before the game, that he doesn't know. He doesn't have a plan with these quarterbacks. I find that hard to believe. I still think that there is a plan. Of course there's a plan. Now, does he have to tell us about it? No. He could talk about that with his quarterbacks. But if it's me, it should be Matt Corral 1, Adrian Martinez 2. And I'm also a little guilty of the overreaction to Martinez in week 3. So we'll put a bow on that one, and we'll see you June 16th for the rematch. All right, Zook had the under in the next game, Brahmas and Panthers. Good thing the UFL had this, because I know a lot of us bitched and moaned about regional coverage, and, for the first time in, I think, XFL or USFL history last couple of years, we had a game that wasn't standalone. We had 2 games on at once. But it worked out because we had an hour-and-a-half lightning delay, and they switched the feed to Devin Gardner asking Wade Phillips what he had for breakfast, which was pretty entertaining for me when I was sitting up in the press box looking for something to do. Zook, when you came into this one with the under, I thought it was a really solid play. I think I would have leaned that way as well. Obviously didn't make it a best bet. I thought Dormady was going to have a big game, and that was what was going to push it over. It turned out Brahma's defense is back. Start buying shares on them again, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I thought both these defenses were stout, and that's why I want to take it. I leaned, Dormady played a lot better than I thought he would. So part of me was leaning towards San Antonio's offense was going to be as good as it was with Garbers. So I don't think they're going to score that many points. So I don't know. It was a pretty easy play. Like I said, I sweated it low in the end, but nothing too bad.
Yeah, I'm sure you're thinking at half it's 16-0. They seem to be rolling. You're thinking, wow, they might get to 30. So you have to hope the defense holds up, but that wasn't the case. There was only 9 combined points.
My only concern was that Michigan was winning, and the Brahmas they could score 20 in the last
Right.
I don't know 6 minutes or something like that, right? Like crazy.
So I want to talk Michigan first. Where are we at on the Michigan Panthers? I know everybody does power rankings, and we do them too, and they don't matter. But I did see a lot of sets of power rankings that had Michigan at 3 coming into this week. And if you just look at the schedule, yes, they beat St. Louis. Yes, they played Birmingham close. It's not the 3rd best team in the league, though. I mean, I think we can safely say that now. So I'm interested to see what people do as far as adjusting the Panthers. We had them at 5 already. I think that's where they belong. And it really doesn't matter because, sure, they might be a dog to DC. They might be pretty heavy dog to Birmingham when they play again in the second meeting. But it doesn't matter because they're going to be locked into the USFL playoffs at this point. Memphis and Houston aren't making it. I mean, unless Mark Thompson puts the entire city of H-Town on his back and gets 40 carries a game, I don't see Houston climbing out of a hole even at 1-3 to be better than Michigan. And I know it's just a game, right? Like it's 2-2 Michigan, 1-3 Memphis and Houston, but there's some separation here. And you could just tell that Michigan's defense will keep them in games as they did at the end of that one, where it got a little scary for a second with Marcus Sims scoring early. Quentin Dormady, different quarterback than Chase Garbers. Dormady, I mean, average yards per completion, 11.5, pretty solid, but I would like to go look at his average yards per attempt. He was letting that thing fly, Zook. I mean, he was bombing balls 30, 40 yards down the field, and that's kind of what we saw him do last year with the Guardians as well, and it's kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, he's good with the deep ball. We know that.
Yeah.
So
I think San Antonio is a team that can handle a starting quarterback injured. Maybe not a lot of teams in this league can. We saw Michigan kind of take a step back from E.J. Perry to Danny Etling. I
Sure.
thought that was maybe a little closer, but you could see the wind come out of the sails. I know Etling threw the touchdown pass, but he just didn't he didn't give you the same confidence that Perry did when
Right.
when things kind of broke down. And I know they could both run, but Dormady is, I think, right up there with Garbers.
He oozes confidence too, and we saw it last year with Orlando.
Yeah.
He came in and won some games for him. He's going to throw for a lot of yards because he's not scared of throwing a pick. He's going to let it fly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So it'll
looking
be
for a
interesting
lot
to
of,
see how AJ adjusts to him.
Yeah, I talked about the Michigan offensive line last week being very impressive. 0 sacks allowed, not this week. And they were missing some starters, which is, why I was close to making San Antonio best bet. I couldn't get all the way there just because I wasn't sure how Dormady would look in this system, but I think he answered a lot of our questions. He threw the ball to only a couple different receivers. Latimer, his target in Orlando, was one of them, had 5 catches, 32 yards. But really the major ones were Justin Smith and Jontre Kirkland. Smith, the 3rd receiver in this offense behind Kirkland and Stevenson, and has a breakout game. I'm willing to say right now, when you look at a 4-receiver set, I think Latimer, Kirkland, Stevenson, and Smith are right up there with Peasy, Shepard, Aitman, Butler as far as deadly combination.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that's hard to stop.
And that's the thing for me is it's going to be hard for me to bet on the Brahmas unless I really like the line. And it's because there's just no consistency with that defense. They can come out and have 10 penalties and lose the game for you, or they could play the way they did this week.
Right.
And is that because Michigan is not as good offensively? Like, where are we going to get? The defense that played this week is what I expected to see all year.
Yeah.
And when they get consistency, maybe I'll start betting on them more.
Yeah, similar for me. This is what I expected out of the Michigan offense when I bet the under 38.5 with them in Houston, right? Like, you look at a team that we talked about on Thursday, 45% of their passing output was 4 plays coming into this one. And you're just not going to replicate that. Teams are going to catch on to you on film. They're not going to allow you to beat them deep anymore. And San Antonio has the number 1 pass defense in the league. Like, people don't realize that. But those 2 safeties with Jordan Mosley and A.J. Hendy, and then you throw in Cam Dantzler is a corner on this roster. And he hasn't even played yet. Interested to see what happens there. But even without him, and they're missing Bryce Thompson too, your guy from Seattle, and pass defense looked pretty good. I do think that Michigan is right down there with Memphis as far as passing offense. And people will say, oh, Memphis has a pretty decent passing offense. You can't say that after how they looked against St. Louis. I think Michigan relied a little too much on those explosive plays. And they get Memphis this week, so going against the worst pass defense in the league might help them a little bit. We'll keep an eye on the status of E.J. Perry, but San Antonio is a better team than Michigan. We know that now. And we also live in a reality where it's shaping up, Zook, like San Antonio or D.C., assuming St. Louis the way they look, will be the 1 seed in the XFL conference. San Antonio or D.C. may end up with a better record than Michigan and miss the playoffs. If that happens, get ready for some angry fan bases and it really could go either way. It could even be St. Louis that ends up missing out again when you look at these 3 teams and how the round robins might go. Obviously, St. Louis has beat San Antonio already, so if they go into D.C. next week and win, that gives them a huge leg up. D.C. and San Antonio will meet again coming up here soon, so leave us a chat if you think that's what's going to happen. Similar to XFL South versus XFL North last year, where maybe a 7-3 or a 6-4 team gets left out. For a Michigan Panthers team who, if you like betting futures, you might want to throw a bet on them to win the USFL side, considering they're probably going to get to the game, and you never know. Birmingham could get the flu. Corral and Martinez could both walk away because they're not happy with their snap count. You don't know. If Michigan's going to be in the game, I would just play a little bit of money on that, knowing that they're going to be there. When the XFL conference, we don't really know who's going to be there. So that's where I'm at. Big chance for Michigan to bounce back next week against Memphis. And San Antonio may have a bit of a trap game against Arlington. Until Arlington wins a game, I'm going to consider that like a trap for anybody who has to play them because of what happened with Orlando last year when they ended up knocking DC off. All right, any closing thoughts on that one, Zook? We breezed past everything? All right, cool. All right. Renegades. Where do we start? Just a dismal performance. First drive, they come out firing. Looks really good. Sal Cannella catches one along the near sideline. He also dropped one, which probably was an 80-yard touchdown.
That was a huge ball.
But he made up for it because he forced the fumble on that punt. So
I don't think he's scoring on that. He's probably getting inside the 20, though.
Yeah.
He's not that fast.
Yeah. And when he dropped that, it's like we were talking about, it seems like Perez lost some confidence in him at that point because there were times he was wide open, and Joel Klatt kept highlighting that, and there were times where Perez threw it into coverage with Cannella open. Arlington was a shell of themselves. They go 2 for 10 on third down. I mean, they were like 8 for 9 on their first 9 third down tries against DC. That kept them in the game. Offensive line for the Renegades was not good at all. Why didn't we use Lindsey Scott Jr.? Put him in a few snaps. He had 1 for 1, 21 yards. He had a couple of carries, I believe. Yeah, 2 carries for 5 yards.
I think they stopped using him because they can't get the play call in fast enough and switch quarterbacks.
Right.
Like, they're just not doing it. They burned too many timeouts.
Yeah.
That they could have more chances at the end of that game had they just not just been pissing away their timeouts.
Yeah, something that Skip Holt says is a major complaint when it comes to Corral and Martinez. Not from the media, not from the fans, from those two themselves. He admitted they want to play wire to wire. If you're going to do this with Perez or Scott, play them wire to wire, right? Scott needs that same treatment. I think at this point with Perez going 15 for 28, 144 yards, a touchdown and a pick. And
I don't know. I disagree with that.
I'm not
I
saying
like bringing
bench
them in
him,
with-
but like
I like
so
bringing
much
them in with
potential.
packages.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I just haven't seen enough film on Scott to think that he could play the whole game.
Well, if you're going to watch this film, you're going to be up all night because there's a lot of it. Dude threw for damn near 10,000 yards in his college career. But I understand that might not translate directly to the UFL, but I'll continue to say it until they do it. Start Lindsey Scott Jr. Make him QB1 for a week. Perez will be fine with it. This happened before last year when he had Brett Hundley coming in, and I think it can only motivate Perez to be better. There's no better mentor than Perez who's going to sit up late at night with Lindsey Scott, teach him this offense. That's a huge asset if they do go with Scott to come over to the sideline and go through things with Perez on the tablets when they're on defense. I don't know at this point what you got to lose. I mean, you're 0-4. You're basically going to have to win out and get help to make the playoffs at this point because in this conference, I think you're going to have to get to 7 wins to be a top 2 team. So, Houston. Mark Thompson effect. He wasn't on the field for those first 3 losses. All of a sudden he comes in and C.J. Johnson talked about him glowingly before this about how the entire offense runs through Mark. And I get it. Only 9 carries, 34 yards, and a score today. But Zook, his running style, something you don't see often in spring football. Derrick Henry of the UFL?
I wouldn't go that far.
We'll
That's a very nice compliment.
Yeah.
He does run hard. That's for sure.
6 foot 240 too. Like,
Yeah, he's a big boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've got to give him the ball more. And
Yeah.
if you
I
coming
think
out,
he's hurt still, and that they were like
Sure.
pitch count. For
but
him.
coming out of half, they were like, yeah, we're giving him the ball more. That's the game plan.
Yeah.
Because they asked him the game plan, not what he had for breakfast.
Yeah, Houston receiving core is starting to step up a little bit. I thought, like some of the speed that they have on the perimeter with Justin Hall. And,
Yeah, Hall can.
Yeah.
He can run the ball or catch the ball and run.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
and Grayson too, starting to show out. Zook's a big Reed Sinnett guy, and I think he's a very good game manager, and almost kind of reminds me of a Quentin Dormady from last year as far as like a storyline perspective. Good quarterback, maybe a bad team. I think they're still bad. I don't think Mark Thompson's going to come in and flip this around. I do give him a ton of credit, though, because the Houston things were showing up. First fumble on the punt, special teams miscue for like the 4th straight week. Like you can always count on them to have one. So that happens. Then, end of the first half, I don't know if you caught this, Zook. End of the first half, minute to play, ball back, 2 timeouts. Sinnett goes out there, takes a sack. Klatt goes crazy as a former quarterback. He's like, oh, this is the worst time to take a sack. Now they got to burn a timeout. Tick, 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 30 seconds. The clock runs out. He goes into half with 2 timeouts in his pocket. They were at midfield with a kicker who's hit from 56 before this season. It was at that point I thought, okay, good. Thank God we took Arlington minus 2.5. But they asked C.J. Johnson. You're right. They didn't ask him what he had for breakfast, but they did ask him, why'd you run the clock out? And he said, because Arlington has the #1 offense, and if we don't score, they're going to get the ball back. I thought it was kind of a BS answer at the time.
Sure.
But they were getting the ball back in the second half,
What'd
and
he
they
say?
went down and scored.
He goes, we're getting the football, and we're going to score.
Yeah,
We're going to score a touchdown. And
they did.
good call.
Yeah, it was they made it 17-3. I was shocked that ended up working because it seemed like, if you notice, like there was some tension because both teams were using the same tunnel.
Right.
And Houston let Arlington run in first. And like the players
I don't think they really let him.
Oh, yeah.
The referees were over there like,
Is that what it was?
you guys stay here for a
Yeah,
second.
that could be real ugly.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen at Michigan with Penn State against Michigan.
Yeah, I don't think they had a
Nobody wants on
they didn't really have a choice. The referees were over there
Right.
saying, no, you guys stay.
But what that caused is tempers to flare about that situation. I think
Sure.
Sinet was like pissed off because he's like, I could have got another 15 yards, get us into field goal range. And then the coaches are arguing. And then I saw one of the linemen like throw his helmet down and start yelling at Reed. So I'm like, oh yeah, 2.5. Here we go. Make some adjustments. And, Houston's falling apart again. That was not the case. Really good second half from them. And honestly, yeah, this is my most impressive win of the UFL Week 4. Considering nobody thought Houston would win this game.
Yeah.
I was a week late.
Well, I mean, look at go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say I was a week late on Michigan's offensive inability. That's why I took the under.
Right.
You were a week late on this performance. This is what you thought you were going
Right.
to get last week when you took the 2.5. They didn't show up,
Yeah,
but they did this week. This is more vintage Houston.
I mean, Arlington with 9 points? Come on.
yeah, this was a flop. I mean,
That's just not. I mean, look at what I was about to say before I really cut you off was Vegas had this at 46.5, right?
did he
40?
did he get the half of that? I don't think.
46.5? We couldn't even hit
Yeah.
30.
No.
So I'm not the only one that's wrong on this.
Yeah.
And that Vegas certainly didn't think Houston was going to score all them damn points, right? They thought they were going to come from Arlington, and so did I.
Yeah. Well, we
So-
talked about 0-3 versus 0-3, maybe get like a shootout like you did with Vegas and Orlando
Right.
between two bad teams, and the games always seem to go over. But no, this was a Luis Perez flop. He didn't look good. The offensive line was terrible. I thought Deontay Purnett actually played a pretty decent game, but like Tyler Vaughns was nowhere to be found. Sal Cannella dropped a huge one, and Arlington has no defense. When it got down to like 5 minutes left, and Houston is running the clock out on you, you can't stop Houston. And they took like 6 minutes off the clock, and Perez gets it back with like 2 to go. I think he got one play in before the 2-minute warning, but they ate up a ton of clock in the fourth quarter. That's not. Houston's a team that's been going 3 and out consistently. This defense is not good. And I think a lot of that 46.5 came from maybe this defense being as bad as they are. Arlington, let's set the live over under win total. I'm going to have it at, because like they have to play DC again. They have to play St. Louis again. They got to play San Antonio twice.
I think they get 2.
Okay.
I really do.
2-8, you're saying final?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think they get minimum 2.
What a fall from grace that would be.
They're not. I told you.
Yeah.
Like for 0-4 now. I said 0-3 on Thursday. 0-4 now. They're not a bad squad, and they got one of the best coaches in the UFL in Stoops.
Yeah.
And if anybody could turn it around like he did last year, it's him.
Right. Or there's a school of thought that says, did Luis Perez save them? And now people got some film on him. And, you talked about them getting hot for that playoff run. Like, was this team ever good, even last year? Or was it just a product of, they were good. Like we can agree that this was a championship team. So here's my take on Arlington. I still think they're going to win 4 games. I think 3 or 4 games is
You think they're going to win 4?
I think 3 or 4. I think I'd set it at 3.5.
Okay.
And if I had to take the over on 3.5, I'd be okay because
I'd be taking.
I'm not betting the Renegades against the spread. They're just a nightmare. And honestly, they'll probably start winning when I stay off them. It seems like they do cover. Like St. Louis, you had them. What were they? +6 in that game or something? +4. No, you had like 4, right? Arlington was.
Yeah.
Because you barely covered that at 3, but
Correct. Yeah.
I
it was
wasn't
3.
on them that week, and that's probably why they covered. So I'm going to stay away. I'm going to let the Renegades win some games. I will be picking them straight up. I'm not going to give away my pick for Thursday, but I got to take a deep look at this Arlington-San Antonio game because until Arlington does win one, there is that sense of like they're going to get one. They're going to get somebody, right? So like, who's it going to be? Is it going to be like the second meeting against St. Louis, where whose season are they going to spoil, right?
Sure.
Is what you think about. So, Yeah, you're right. Big game Bob Stoops is always going to be a force to be reckoned with, and they just came out flat.
How do you
today.
feel about a offensive coordinator change?
No, I don't think so. I think just like the change is get out of your own way and put Lindsey Scott in my opinion.
Gotcha.
Yeah, here's a place where we could talk about that, but you'll never get it because Bob Stoops is so close with his staff, and you could tell how he sees spring football. Right, this is let's get the band back together. Right, where Reggie Barlow went out and said, "Okay, I'm going to get a lot of my old coaches, but I'm going to get Greg Williams, right, who's like pretty up there as far as like guys you can go out and get. Anthony Becht, who's like, I'm going to hire all new coaches because I've never had a staff before. Wade Phillips, who's like, I'm going to go get A.J. Smith." For Bob Stoops, it wasn't like identify the new young coordinator and let's build a dynasty. It was, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this with the old college boys and have a reunion. And I don't think he'll ever fire anybody on that staff, to be honest. He's got Steve Spurrier's son as the tight end coach on that staff. So they're going to win or lose with this staff. Sure, Chuck Long is maybe not getting the play in fast enough, but start Scott. I'll continue to say it. Credit to Houston. Proud of them, what they did today. Very good defense. I don't know why they gave up 34 to Michigan last week, but this defensive line is very good. And they got a couple of sacks today. They forced a couple of turnovers. The one at the end was huge. Almost looked like Perez was going to do it. Complete the comeback, get the two. All of a sudden, it's a tie game. Houston defensive line to credit for stopping him there at the end. Not a lot of teams have been able to do that against Perez. Any closing thoughts on this one, Zook? That's it for this one. All right, well, since I was on the road in Birmingham and I was at the stadium for probably about 8 or 9 hours with that rain delay by the time everything got wrapped up, you were sitting here in Studio Z, and I think we have a new segment. Zook's top 3 moments of the week. Do we have this queued up, Zook? Let's let it roll.
Yeah, we're ready to rock.
Let's see.
It's not always going to be the top 3 moments of the week. It's just my moments of the week.
This is Matt goes on the road and Zook has fun.
Yep, that's pretty much what I do.
Let's see it.
Hey, for 40,000 people, this really ain't that loud. I'm gonna tell you the truth.
1 inches, it's 4th down. Powered by 4K cameras throughout the dome. Oh no, can't have it. Movement on the right side.
26-minute lightning delay means nothing to these guys. When you can air guitar in a downpour at a football game in the UFL.
Work your way back after suffering that knee injury. How much does it pay off to get back now into the end zone after all that you had to overcome?
Good, you know. While I watched my teammates go out there and get some wins the first 3 weeks, I'm glad I could just come out there and help them, man. Feel good to be out here, man. St. Louis, we love you.
I like the shades.
Yeah, these my shades go copper, man. Just chill.
So we had false starts in the dome. We had tarps off in Birmingham. And we had just chill.
I'm so upset that I couldn't go find those glasses because
I think he said he'd go buy them, which I think he has his own merch.
Yeah, I probably can't afford them, but
stock going up for Peasy.
I would have loved to open that show up though with those glasses on for sure.
Peasy would automatically be the highest selling jersey in the UFL if they did make individual player ones. The one I got behind me is DeAndre Tompkins back in XFL 2020, where you couldn't get a jersey, but you could customize one, where you could put your own, instead of D Johnson 54, you could put your own name and number on it, which I think even if they did that, Pearson would be a pretty cool.
Maybe PZ will find out how big of a fan I am.
Send you a jersey.
And no, I'll take the glasses.
Yeah. I would love to see that. We got to make that a bet this year. Like, if St. Louis beats DC, I got to wear those or something. Well, I'll tell you this much. Thursday's going to be a fun show because, boy, DC's back's against the wall. St. Louis is cruising. Defenders beat him twice last year. So definitely some revenge on the mind for Anthony Becht and the boys. And, overall thoughts, Zook, I'll get one more question out of you. Overall thoughts on crossover weekend. Is this something that going forward you would like to see in week 1 instead of week 4?
Yeah, I thought for sure week 1 would be all crossover games. So
Yeah.
I was pretty surprised when we didn't get that.
It's 2-2 split again.
2-2, yeah.
So now 4-4 for the year, like we
4-4.
said in the intro. This is it, right? We got 8 more of these crossover games plus a championship. So it'll be interesting to see. I think Birmingham having DC at home and St. Louis at home could make a difference, not having to play in Audi or the Dome. But, hey, we could end up in a situation where it's 8-8 and it comes down to the championship. That would be electric.
That would be awesome.
Yeah,
What week does St. Louis play Birmingham?
It's later in the season.
Right.
It's got to be 9 or 10. Yeah. So that's going to be interesting. Like I said, if they played today on a neutral field, I'd make it a pick 'em. You want to hit the poll first? And let's see what we got with our new Boulevard poll. Little bit of a shakeup. Again, I don't really drop teams or raise teams. I just throw the whole thing out and reevaluate it each week based on who I think would be favored on a neutral field if the teams played tomorrow. Birmingham I have as a slight pick 'em over St. Louis at this point. Something like it'd be minus 110, plus 100 type of deal on the money line. San Antonio is 3. DC is 4. Michigan is 5. And then a drop-off. Memphis at 6. I think Michigan-Memphis gets the spread. Michigan, 2.5. Probably, something around that. Houston is 7. And Arlington, who we had at 8 at one point last year in our XFL Boulevard poll as well, and then they went on to win a championship. So we'll see how it sorts himself out, but I can't put an 0-4 team above anybody.
Were they just waiting for us to get them to 8, and now they're going to play?
I said they're going to win 4 games. They're certainly not going to end the season 8. We're 4 weeks in. We can foreshadow a little bit. I would say I'm not going to give you the top 4 because that could be a mess. Bottom 4 in the poll to end the season we can give it in order. I would say Arlington can rise to as high as 5, Michigan to 6, Houston to 7, and Memphis, I think, is the worst team in the league, and I think they're going to lose to Houston next time they play. So that's our poll for this week, though. Again, we put absolutely no credit into that. That matters for nothing other than what we maybe project games out on our Boulevard Best Bets. That's the show tonight. Drop us a like before you get out of here on the YouTube if you're watching in there. Appreciate your comments and coming in to chat with us. Subscribe to the channel. And if you're on Twitter or X, hit us with a retweet. Big show coming up on Thursday. Going to break down all of UFL Week 5. Week 5, Zuck.
Yeah.
I just, there is no such thing as football season, but I do hate that it goes so fast.
I do want to cut you off first, though. If you were worried about those crossover games and not getting them all,
let's talk about it, yeah.
I'm selling these VC boxes, which only helps Jahcour Productions.
You're not selling them. You're solving a problem. That's what
I am solving a problem. So if you want
this
those,
is a problem, right?
It's the best
They
cable
sell
box on the
themselves.
market.
Yeah.
I'm going to be doing a live tutorial on my Facebook page, Jahcour Productions, either Monday or Tuesday. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we'll get that
You
in
should definitely check
before-
that out. I'll ship them to you before you get before Saturday.
Yeah, we have this again, right? So we're getting back-to-back weeks, and I'm telling you right now, you're probably not going to get bailed out by a lightning delay where it kind of saved the league and you got to see some of both games. We're doing this again Week 5 with 2 regional games. I know it was kind of a big complaint. I think it's a ratings thing because they can combine and say Defenders, Stallions, plus Panthers, Brahmas had this number. And they don't have to have an individual number between the two.
Is that what you think it is?
No, it is. I read that's how they're going to do it. So,
I think it has more to do with Fox was supposed to get X amount of games, and ESPN or ABC, whatever that you want to call it, we're supposed to get X amount of games, and because of how everything shook out schedule wise, this is the only way that they could get Fox their allotment.
Yeah,
and that's to pull 2 7:00 games again.
Yeah.
On a Saturday.
We'll see what Mike Mitchell comes out with ratings. Obviously, on this show, we don't really talk too much about ratings or attendance, but I think ratings-wise, you're going to see a drop-off on FS1 because FS1 does not equal ESPN. Even though they're both a cable channel, and that's kind of how it's supposed to set up, and ABC would equal Fox, you're not going to get the FS1 viewership that you do. We saw last year on FX. Those are the lowest-rated games of the season, so yeah, if you like that kind of stuff, ratings and attendance, go to @by Mike Mitchell on Twitter. He'll have you covered for all that because we completely neglected on this show. So
Yeah, we do. So shout out to St. Louis fans for, again, having more in attendance than the other 3 games.
during a Cardinals game.
Yes, during a Cardinals game.
Cardinals drew 40K in Busch, and they still had 31K in the Dome.
Right.
So,
And again,
11:30 a.m. local kick.
that had more attendance than the other 3 games combined.
Yeah. And I'm a Defenders fan, and our beer snake can go up against anything they do, but I'll tell you this much. Seeing the Busch flowing at, 10:30 a.m. local time, the Battlehawks are winning. if that's going to be the environment in there, and you showed us in your moments. But all right, I'll quit rambling. We're going to be back here on Thursday for a big show. Hope you enjoyed everything tonight. And you always remember, there is no such thing as football season. We'll see you Thursday.